Good morning and welcome to the Keynote presentation. I'm Erlisha Whitfield from the University of Central Florida, and I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker. Today we have the privilege of hearing from a distinguished scholar in the field of computer science education. Dr. Judith Uchidiuno is an assistant professor at Georgia Institute of Technology School of Interactive Computing and directs the Play and Learn Lab. She designs culturally informed education technologies and broadens access to CS education in low-income and underserved communities. Her research has contributed to designing publicly available video games used by thousands of students, co-designing Georgia State's Artificial Intelligence Middle School curriculum, PD partnerships with teachers in the US and West Africa, and active collaboration with several schools and organizations. Today, Judith will be sharing her insights in her keynote titled, Improving the Efficacy of AI Instructional Materials with Co-Designs with Students and Instructors. This promises to be an enlightening session as she explores the transformative potential of integrating student voices into the development of AI curricula. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Judith Uchidiuno.
Thank you. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to Orlando. Thank you, Erlisha, for that wonderful introduction. I think first of all, as everyone was kind of like introducing themselves and talking, I noticed, oh my God, they're all from the other side of the room, and I'm stuck there, right? So my choices are either cut across the room in front of the speakers, or awkwardly do this walk, come in here, and I think I picked the latter, so forgive me. It's nice to see everyone. I can't wait to share the work that we've been doing for the last couple of years. So today, I'll be talking about improving the efficacy of AI instructional materials through co-design with students and teachers. As Erlisha mentioned, I design culturally informed education technologies, and I broaden participation in CS education for low-income and underserved students. I do this through co-design partnerships with families, math and computer science interventions and after-school programs, computer science game co-design, this is all programming games, and co-design partnerships with teachers both in the US and in West Africa. So today's talk, we're going to be talking about the benefits of co-design for improving AI instruction in K-12 settings in a US context. And so when we have the talk or the chat, I'd love to hear people from other cultural contexts kind of share their insights. So the first thing we're going to start with is, why should we teach students about AI? What is the benefit of teaching K-12 students about AI? For students are already interacting with AI. This is just like talking to your phones, using face recognition on iPhones, filters in all the social media apps. Everyone seems to have 1,000 speakers in their house, like a smart assistants. Some students are fortunate to have parents who have smart cars. And Pew Research Center, this is a report in 2023 saying that 1 in 5 US teens who have heard about ChatGPT have used it for schoolwork. And this is at 2023, right? That number is likely higher now. I'm fine. This is a note that my 12-year-old son gave me for my birthday, and I wanted to share this because I thought it was interesting. I got this note. I'm like, oh, happy birthday, Mom, so dear and bright. A guiding star, your love a light. With every year you only grow, a heart so warm, a steady glow. Through every laugh and every tear, you've been my strength year after year. On this day, I wish for you a year that's just as special as you. Well, the first thing I do, I'm like, this is plagiarism. Where did you get this from, right? So I very quickly Google this thing, but I can't find it, right? I can't find where he got this from. I'm like, my friends are like, just enjoy this. I'm like, I get it, right? But he couldn't have written, I get, like, he will write this, but I'm like, it rhymes, right? There's no way. And so 1 week has passed, and I asked him, I was like, okay, this is such a sweet poem, right? Where did you get it from? And he's like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I had the main parts of it, and I just put it in ChatGPT. And so it's like this, he's like a 6th grader, and so kids are using AI tools, right? And students are engaging with in ways that are expected and sometimes unexpected. And so the hypothesis is that if we educate them, it allows them to use these technologies more effectively and more responsibly. And so, all right, so we've established a need to teach AI. Why do we need to do it in formal settings? Well, currently, AI education access is inequitable, right? You may have students who can afford to, and this is a summer camp that is actually happening this summer. You can see the prices are very expensive, even by any standard in the world. So you might have, if you're fortunate to have access to things like this, you can access it, or having a person who can kind of like an educated professional to help you navigate like the plethora of tools out there. But if you don't have any of those things, you're still kind of stuck. And also, there's also like bias issues in AI that we talk about a lot. By bias, I'm referring to AI systems that produce biased results that reflect human biases within society. And many of these biases are unintentional. So as human beings, all of us are inevitably influenced by our experiences and our preferences. And system designers may unintentionally build these biases into AI systems through the selection of data or how the data is weighted. And so AI systems now learn to make these decisions based on flawed training data. And we already see evidence of these issues in how facial recognition and even AI uses in policing and even like jobs hiring, how these things might disproportionately affect people from marginalized settings. So the theory is that if we prepare a more diverse workforce, we can hopefully reduce these biases that exist. I feel like every day I wake up, I see another Gen AI tool that is born, right? And you can imagine that these things are only going to get bigger over time, and we need to have a more prepared workforce. And so, all right, so what should students know about AI? Like, so we know, all right, so they need to know AI because they're already using it whether we like it or not. And we need to teach it in K-12 settings. So what should they know? This is from, there's a group called AI for K-12 in the US that have kind of established standards, banded standards from elementary, middle school, and high school on what we should teach students. And there's 5 big ideas. First one is perception. Computers perceive the world using sensors. We have to take that information somehow and store and represent it in a computer system somehow and use it for reasoning. Computers have to be able to learn from data. They have to be able to interact naturally with humans, and there's positive and negative consequences to using AI in society, and we have to be able to navigate these things effectively. And so we approach this problem like a design-based research problem. And why? There's lots of questions that we have about this. Like, how do we properly engage and teach middle school students? Like, we're AI researchers, right? We can teach college students, but like, who can teach middle school students? Right? We can't, and we don't even pretend to be able to do it. So we need to engage teachers, and somehow, how do we cater the needs to the needs of diverse students? We also need to, like, in case the answer was not obvious, teachers, right? Teachers from diverse backgrounds, we have to engage them to be able to meet the students where they are. And we fully went into this process over the last 4 years knowing that we will make lots of mistakes. And we needed a design method or research methodology that was flexible enough to allow us to make mistakes and iterate. So design-based research is a research methodology that uses iterative design to develop knowledge that improves educational practices by creating and testing them in real-world settings. So it has to be a thing that will be applied in real-world settings. It's a cyclical process of design implementation, evaluation, and refinement of interventions, and it involves collaboration between researchers, practitioners, and students who are contributing to the design and implementation of these interventions. And so this is kind of like an overview of the framework, right? You can kind of ground yourself in this problem. So we need to teach diverse students this 5 big ideas. How do we do it? And conjecturing feels like just when you're making hypotheses, but unlike the typical hypotheses, it's not like a standard, here's an intervention and I expect this outcome, because there's a process. And we expect that this process will change over time. And so conjecture is like, this is what we want to happen, and we're going to iterate and reflect on it. And this is a very cyclical process. This is our research team. We have AI experts. We have people in the Department of Education. We have evaluation teams. We have design people. And we work with teachers, right? Because teachers are critical in this process. So far, we have worked with 24 teachers over 3 cohorts in the last, so that's 3 years. So now there's 4 cohorts of teachers over 15 schools. And so our design process really looked like, first, we recruit teachers. And then we have a week-long, every year we have a week-long professional development training to teach this fundamental AI concept. So we recruit computer science teachers. And then we co-design the baseline instruction. So we say, this is a thing that we think, this is how we think you should teach the students. And the teachers say, oh, no, right? And they co-design that baseline instruction, and then we do pre and post interviews with them. So before they start teaching and after they teach the first time on every single semester. And then every week on the clock, we have small group meetings reviewing AI concepts. And these meetings include researchers, teachers, everyone in the same room, and well, virtually at least, in the same virtual room. And when we review the concepts that they're about to teach in the week, we also review how they taught this last week, right? How did they modify their content? We review the student assessment data. What did their students do? And then we are taking lessons learned and learning from each other and modifying the instruction, talking about the challenges that teachers experience and talking about solutions as a group. And then from a research team, we also go and have observations monthly in different schools just to see how this thing is going in action. So that's kind of how this has gone over the last 4 years now. And the curriculum kind of looks like this. If you go on the website, I'll put some links so people can see it. But it's kind of very detailed slide, activities, and all these things. So a teacher can just pick it up and go. So far, we have taught over 1,800 students in over 9 Georgia school districts, and we're kind of moved to teacher training in Texas and parts of Florida as well. Students are also very critical, right? When we're working with teachers, every year we also teach a modified version of this curriculum to 40 high school girls that enroll on a program called Bridge Up STEM at Georgia Tech. And that is an opportunity to have direct communication with students, and also gives us a chance to co-design AI education games, because we want to see topics that would engage students and have their voices directly in the curriculum. So our co-design process with students looks like I give a 45-minute lecture, and I make teams of 6 to 8 students and 1 researcher. And this is really fun because every student in my lab actually gets to do something in practice, right? So I'll have me, my 4 or 5 PhD students, and everybody, we're all there, and everyone kind of takes a group. Then we have co-design sessions, and everyone gets to present in class. So far, we've designed about 7 games, and some of them you guys will get to actually play them as a demo when we get to the discussions. All right, so the first thing that we've learned is co-design, as you guys will expect, co-design with teachers. That makes the material just much more engaging, even for students without computer science experience. And so as a way to start this conversation, I'm going to show you material before any teacher saw it, and I had to dig hard to find this one, right? Because a lot of materials have changed so much over the last 4 years that it's hard to find where we started. And so I found a thing that we're about to start designing soon that nobody has seen, and so I'm going to show you this thing, and you let me know what you think. So this is recommender systems. This is what college professors think, how we think that middle school students should learn. So we have resources, of course you need those, right? Some goals, a video, this activity, right? Look up this company application. See how we think things are simple, right? Then we use very domain-specific language. Explains the thing with the same video, right? Give them another activity. And we all think all this thing, we expect them to happen in one class, like one 30, 45-minute class, all right? All right. Here's a thing they have to do. They have to do this rating thing, right? They have to form teams. have to do a discussion, upload their worksheets. Then we have to give them another activity, right? We also assume like high reading competency, right? This is like middle school. But what challenges did you encounter in selecting good features, and how might a machine learning engineer handle bad features? The same video, right? Yeah. Another activity, right? And so we did that, and we said, okay, yeah, if we did this, if you do this compared to like freshman students in college, it's very simple, right? But we kind of took this and we said, oh, this is, for middle school students, this looks great. All right, so a teacher commented, I think the first time I used it, I most certainly lost them because it was a lot of information, right? It was long, and there was no built-in engagement. So here's another example activity of when teachers have co-designed a thing. And again, slightly different topic, but I think you'll be able to draw parallels between both. So the teachers this topic is like, how do you teach robot and computer perception? There's some learning objectives up front. Does anybody, who here, like US teachers know what bell ringers are, right? But like, I don't know if this is a thing that goes across. How would I describe it? It's kind of like an opening discussion question. All right, then it's going to ask questions, right? Talk about some things, questions, right? A few definitions here. Talk about perceiving faces, right? Some memes. There's a few videos. Right, let's tie it to social media filters, right? Bring something that they've learned, pull it back in. There's one activity using Scratch. If you have extra time, here's something you can do in Scroobly. Anyone know Scroobly? Scroobly is this thing where you would, you set up your camera, your computer camera, and you move around your body because the computer can sense parts of your body, and when you move it around, you can get the thing to move. So it's really fun. You can also record the videos so students will try to make dance moves using this thing. And then there's kind of like an exit ticket, which is a thing like a really little homework that you can go to. And in some slides, there's lots of examples that we include. And teacher says, if the presentations had more than enough examples, I would just cut a few. So teachers have the agency to kind of know what they want and what they don't want, and they can cut it out. And when we did an analysis of all the things that teachers have co-designed, you can see how it breaks down, right? The assumed activators, definitions are like 13% of the data. There's some prompts. But you see, relatable examples are like the bulk of the instruction, because teachers want to be able to present the information in multiple ways. And we have evidence that when teachers are co-designing things, students are learning, right? Most students were able to explain the functions of a camera, LiDAR, radar, GPS. These are all like AIs, like sensors. Most students were able to explain sensor placement. They were able to consider multiple stakeholders when discussing AI ethical issues. And students can envision autonomous robots as their personal assistants, support a social emotional well-being, and address societal needs. We also see like impressions changing. So these are just comments from students. Before, the only thing I thought when it came to AI was cheating on assignments, but now I know it's used for a lot of things, like facial recognition, right? It's biased as the people training it. At the end of the day, subjectivity is put in by the human. These are things we really want students to learn as they are kind of engaging with this curriculum. It's more useful than I thought. I thought it was a scary mechanism, but now I see it's an approachable thing, right? I'm less again. I think that when you meet students, there are people who are either AI is fantastic, right? I saw things in the movies and it can help my homework. And there are people who are like, no, it's evil because I live in this community that we're afraid that AI is going to come and take a job. So you kind of have people at the extremes. And the hope is that you just educate students and they become more empowered and they can just be more responsible. All right. All right, so, and just when it comes to even just doing a case study, showing students a study on sleeping, on the safety of sleeping drivers and self-driving cars. Believe it or not, this is a thing. With self-driving cars, and people just fall asleep. And like, well, what is the safety of this? And students are able to kind of like recognize the ethical and safety issues raised by self-driving cars because they believe that they should receive a fine or more serious penalty. However, Even though they know it can promote a responsible behavior, they stand against banning policies, right? Some students are able to identify that, some people have medical issues, that they might not be able to drive and you need transportation to get them. So students are able to recognize nuance in the way that we are able to discuss AI, which is where we want them to be. Another thing that we found is co-design with students actually exposes new and engaging ways of teaching students AI in ways that even teachers cannot even, with teacher co-design, that we can't get to. There's research that says that narrative or role-playing or competitive elements are rarely used in education games to teach AI. And what we have data with our youth co-designers is that they actually find these elements to be extremely important. So here is a video of one of the games that we're making. It's called Where's My People? I'll play it in a 2-minute clip, and I'll kind of talk about the insights that we can show students from this, using this metaphor.
Help me! I'm stuck! Help me!
I promise it gets brighter than this. Okay, so in this video, you can see some things that are here, right? Like the robot clearly has some sensing capabilities, right? It has a motion sensor, but it's not trained to know what is a human versus not a human. And so this is a game that kind of teaches sensors, right? Teaches machine learning, right? And training data. And so from this 2-minute clip, I can show you a lot of things in a way that if I had to teach a student, oh, here is sensing, right? Here is training data, it might take a lot longer. And so these are the kinds of things we can do with games that students can quickly identify that adults are not quite as good as doing. And another thing that we've found is that co-design actually empowers teachers and creates career opportunities otherwise unavailable to them. So these are some comments from teachers who have engaged with our program. When I came to the school, I wanted my computer science program to be something noteworthy. It didn't become what I wanted it to become, but this program is something I can point to and say, for sure, I gave my students something that someone else could not have necessarily given them. This makes me feel like I can really brag on it, right? And that's a really powerful thing for a teacher to be able to feel. I really enjoy working as a team. I've been a loner ever since I began teaching. And this is the first time I can honestly say that I enjoyed working with the group. Everyone's expertise, I appreciated that input. I appreciated the free speaking. Even if you didn't like it, you could say, that's not gonna work for me. But the respect of us, one to another, that for me created a good bond between us. And when teachers have this sense, you can imagine that the effect of it is very powerful. And also, over the last couple of years, when you have teachers, researchers, we will never teach middle school students like teachers. We just don't have the expertise. We don't have the patience. We are terrified of students, right? So over time, our biggest ambassadors have actually become teachers. And teachers have now taken up roles on our team bigger than just being teachers. And so most of our presentations, our teachers go and run them because they're just better at it. This is some work who teachers have now taken leadership and training other teachers across the country. Who here went to 6E this year? Yeah. Hi. Were you at the talk? Oh yeah, hi. So yeah, Amber, who was there, was one of our teachers in our AI for GA. So it's kind of like teachers are now in this role where they can actually travel with us and lead this, and we can, you know what, we need to be here, and we can just say, teacher, we need you to go there, and teachers will do it. And so one teacher was saying, you see other teachers that mention these opportunities, speaking engagement, consulting opportunities, and I just never knew how to get them. With this project, I'm able to do the things that were not available to me. And so we're seeing teacher empowerment beyond, and we have multiple teachers who have transitioned. We have teachers who have gone from teaching to becoming part of the Department of Education, right, because they now see my role is bigger and I cannot have this ownership. And finally, co-design really helps to uncover students' and teachers' AI misconceptions. So this here is a design of a game the students call the Global Guppies. You'll play a prototype there. The learning objective was to teach computer vision and graph representation. And in this game, you play as an anglerfish. The anglerfish is all the way down there in pink. And you're trying to get home, right? You got lost and trying to get home to the bottom of the ocean and avoiding obstacles using LiDAR, radar, and GPS. Well, LiDAR has very limited uses in the ocean, and GPS doesn't work, right? And so just by having teachers make this, the students make this game, so you can see, this is a misconception that we have, and here's how we can correct it. Or in this game, the learning objective was to reflect on the societal impacts of AI and just train a robot to make the most positive action. And so a student said, the one that makes the results in the best societal impact wins. Is there such a thing as a best societal impact? Right? The answer is it depends. And so when you see the ways that students design these games, you can say, okay, here's the thing that we need to focus our teaching, focus our instruction, so that way we can teach them better. And teachers are not immune to having misconceptions about AI because they too are learning about the topic as they teach. We have an activity called Robot or Not, where we show students different kinds of machines that have some autonomous, some AI features and capabilities and others that don't, right? And students say, oh, this is AI and it's a robot because it can sense, right? It can make decisions. So a teacher who was like, you know what, I want to make this more relatable. And so they found a board. Anyone know this board game? There's a board game called Robot or Not, which sounds exactly like the activity, right, that we're doing. However, how it actually works is, has anyone ever done this captchas online to verify you're a human, pick out all the motorcycles? Yeah, so it's a similar kind of concept where you put out 9 cards, and you have to put arrows on things that are related as a player, and everybody on the audience have to guess what you're trying to tell them. You have to get some people to guess correctly, not everyone, right? But if nobody guesses, you failed. So that was the purpose of this game. But because it was called the exact same, the teacher was like, you know what, I want to make it more relatable, and this is how I teach. So just by explaining, oh, this is how I taught my students this week, we're like, misconception, you don't quite understand the purpose of this thing. And so we can reteach teachers so that way they wouldn't make a mistake like this. Or, the kinds of pasta. Anyone know how to do decision trees here? Yeah, so decision trees, and how it happens is you have with AI, when you have a bunch of examples, right, you want a machine to be able to classify the things correctly. And so we're teaching students how to classify the different kinds of pasta. And how it really happens is you say, okay, you want things that can split at every time your group like in half, approximately. It's not a perfect science. So you might start, is it long, right? If you say, is it long on this, you say yes. Like lasagna is long, fettuccine is long, spaghetti is long, and that kind of splits the group in half. Right? And then you start to have features, but every time you should be able to say yes, no, and break your already existing sample, right? Until you kind of get to a place where you can label every single thing. So things would be is it long? Is it hollow, right? Does it have pointed edges? These are things that you can quickly see. Is it filled, like ravioli? These are features that you can see and kind of tell examples apart. So the teacher, right, adaptation, who was trying to make things more relatable, it's like, oh, you know what? I'll do an activity where they can help them decide their clothes. So the students would say, okay, I'm trying to pick out what to wear. So is the weather cold? If it's cold, maybe I should wear a sweater, right? Or maybe I should wear pants. And on the surface, it sounds like it's a similar thing, but it's not. The difference is that with decision trees, you have to have all the examples ahead of time, right? And you're categorizing things. But here, you're having to make decisions on variables to kind of pick out other things that must have already been categorized in the past. And so it's a different thing. And so by a teacher kind of explaining what they did, we could tell this teacher doesn't fully understand this, and this is a teaching opportunity. So it's this process, year-round process of teaching teachers, having teachers teach students and re-educate us on how to make this more effective. All right, co-design does not solve all problems. Believe it or not, it's not perfect. All right, so as I mentioned, we have slides. Teachers will teacher, right? Teachers will do what they do best. And so I want to make this more interactive for my students. And so they're deploying the content using different interactive tools and different modalities for the assignment responses just to accommodate their students' existing skills. And when I say tools, teachers are using things like peer decks, activities, games like Blookit. People have transformed their classrooms to this very interactive space. People use comics. So teachers would do whatever they need to do to kind of make their information more engaging for students. And we found, so this is an example for this one activity, how different teachers modified it. And I want you to think about it from the kind of information you can collect, the kind of data you can collect back from students. So one teacher had her students complete all the exit tickets at the end of the unit, as opposed to assigning each one exit ticket per class. And each unit, imagine, is 5 days, right? Instead of doing every class so you can reflect on every day, the teacher gave them all the tickets at the end of the week. Another teacher created sample responses and used some scaffolding slides to show pictures of different robot parts to help their students brainstorm versus have them kind of reflect on it on their own. Another teacher removed all the exit tickets completely and had their students create a slide showing what their robots look like and explaining their functions. And finally, another teacher turned all the exit tickets into a verbal discussion. And it's not saying any of these things are right or wrong, but they will certainly give you different responses. And the question is what learning goal are you trying to achieve? And is the teacher kind of aware of it? Does the teacher have the metacognition to be able to make those decisions on the fly so that way they can modify the instructions appropriately? And also, when you think about the modality of how they ask students to create robots, some people are write an essay, some people are saying draw, some people are saying assemble physical parts, some people are saying do Tinkercad or HeroForge. These are just like 3D modeling activities. Again, they all sound like, oh, my students can do these different things. They're all equivalent. But all these different tools kind of foster different kinds of output. So here's what a students' output can look like from making robots. I'm drawing, right? I'm assembling features. And what we found that when we compare the kinds of things students can produce using different modalities. So for example, diagram projects where all the robot parts were teacher provided were very restrictive on students' autonomy and creativity because they only had those options to pick from. Drawing-based projects focus very much on the functional aspects, making robots usable and practical. And this was the only modality where students labeled sensors, identified each position specifically. This is also important to say because the people that use drawing-based projects are generally teachers whose students didn't know how to do other things. They didn't really know how to do the 3D modeling things, right? So this is kind of like the tool that the teachers who were from our poorest performing schools were picking. But these are the students that showed the most knowledge because the modality of the assessment allowed them to do it. And then Tinkercad and HeroForge, which are like 3D animation type of tools. This was able to it emphasized visual appeal, created meaningful and imaginative robots. But the students provided much less information about functionality. So we don't know if they actually know it or the tool just didn't let them demonstrate it. And so when we're making decisions about what the modality is of the assessment, what the modality is of how we're giving the instruction, they all have different consequences. And again, we have to be aware enough. So adaptations are necessary. I think that if any of you guys get to teach this thing, you will adapt because you know your students best. But there's lots of opportunities during professional development to educate teachers on the limitations of their adaptation choices and for them to be aware of the kinds of output that they want to get. All right, so last thing I'm gonna say, even with, there's also other things, even with good materials, inequalities, for example, one of the biggest inequality that we're seeing is students' reading competency is one of the biggest hindrances of their ability to interact with AI. Not their computer science experience, right? Not their, oh, it's really, can they read? And I don't think this is a wicked problem. That's not a thing that we're going to be able to fix with any AI thing that we're doing. So we're trying to develop materials that actually depend less on students' ability to read at a very high level. And also things like if you're in the US, there's rigorous testing limitations. There's teachers that do multiple things. Some teachers are sports coaches and robotics instructors and teachers of multiple subjects, and all these limitations limits the amount of AI that students, instruction that students actually receive. So I'm really excited to have a discussion with you all. So to kind of kick this off, this is my last slide, thank you. But to kind of start the discussion, and I want you to start thinking about, because you all are fortunate to be in a place where we have teachers from different cultures. And so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to play back the slides, the thing that we thought students were going to enjoy, that almost no student ever enjoys. And who here teaches middle school students? Okay, who here is a teacher? Okay, so lots of teachers. I'd like to hear from you all. Like, so for your students group, QR code, right? And you can just, if you just point your phone to this, I want to scan through this, and I want you to tell me how you would teach your students in your demographic. How would you transform this instruction so that way it's more engaging? And again, just put some comments. I would change this to this. I would reduce this. I would add this. So yeah, now I'll be quiet and just kind of click through. As soon as I scan the QR code, I'll click through the instructions so you can get a look at it. So you're teaching recommendation systems today. I would like for you to imagine that you had to teach this to your students. How would you transform it? Oh, also in that survey, in that form, I have a question at the end saying, if you don't mind, if we can use your comments for research, please, if you say no, that should not limit you from actually providing your comments, all right? We just won't use it. But imagine you had to teach your students this. How would you make transformations? And again, you don't even have to know the domain. Okay, I want to get your initial thoughts. How would you change it? I'll go back to the QR code. Hopefully that starts to spark some thoughts in your head, and I'll take questions. Thank you all.